Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Adelphi New York statewide breast cancer hotline and support programs, Coping with Cancer During the Holidays. My name is Angela Papalia, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Adelphi Breast Cancer Program. Thank you so much for joining us all on this chilly November day. We're privileged to have a wonderful speaker here with us for our lunch program. And in just a moment, I'm going to introduce her. For everyone's purposes, this program is being recorded. Welcome to Cara Livoti. We have a wonderfully seasoned social worker we have the NYU Langone Long Island Care Team. Cara is a seasoned social worker with the Perlmutter Cancer Center, and we're so lucky to have her share her expertise with all of us here this afternoon. We're going to be talking about a very important topic, which is coping with cancer during the holidays. And Cara, who happens to be an alumni from Adelphi University's School of Social Work, is going to take us through some really useful tips to help us get through this special time of year. And as always, the Adelphi Breast Cancer Program and our partners over at NYU and Perlmutter Cancer Center are available as community social workers, as hospital social workers, all offering everyone here in New York State free psychosocial support services. So we look forward to hearing Cara's presentation today. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Cara. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Good afternoon, survivors, families, loved ones, and friends. My name is Cara Livoti, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and the breast cancer concentrated social worker at NYU Perlmutter Cancer Center, Long Island. I've been here since 2021. What a journey and privilege these last 2 years have been, getting to know all of my breast patients, providing support, resources, and advocacy. I will tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. I began my career in medical social work in 2011 inside the hospital, NYU Langone, formerly Winthrop, where I worked with an array of patients, including all types of cancer patients. On a personal level, my mother-in-law is a breast cancer survivor, and she's doing well medically and in remission, and is a new grandmother to our 6-month-old daughter, Marina. Throughout my time at NYU, I have met with so many survivors of different ages and experiences. I'm so happy to be here with you all today to discuss the complex emotions surrounding cancer during the holiday season and ways to cope. Slide 2. All right, what are your expectations for the holiday? The holidays are generally thought of as a time of celebration and gathering of loved ones. Sometimes people have ongoing traditions of hosting their holiday. They look forward to seeing their families and planning this. People can have loved ones coming from different places and staying with them, etc. However, this can be extremely overwhelming when dealing with a cancer diagnosis. This can bring up feelings like, how do I take care of hosting the holiday and myself at the same time? Or how do I attend this gathering and celebrate when I'm worrying about receiving new test results? Do I want to tell people about my diagnosis? Will I bring down the holiday spirit if I discuss my cancer? These are all valid questions and feelings that might come up during this holiday season. I don't believe that there are wrong answers to any of these, and I'm here to present you with some therapeutic techniques and coping mechanisms to help you through. Next slide. First coping tip. Developing a game plan. Let's first discuss a game plan for the holiday. When I say game plan, I mean considering what and how much you want your loved ones to know about your diagnosis and treatment plan. This would be more geared toward a newly diagnosed cancer patient or someone who was previously in remission. But this is a personal decision. Some people are what I like to call everything on the table types of people. I myself am one of those people. If this is you, you may consider talking to your loved ones prior to the holiday. They might also have strong emotions and want to deal with these privately. You might let them know how you could be tired because of your treatment plans, or that you might have to step away and have some alone time. You might also let them know that you're there to answer their questions. Other people are not as open and consider themselves to be private people who would ideally like only a few close loved ones to know their medical situation. And neither one of these approaches is wrong, they're just different. Um, Second coping tip, having a designated safe person or support person. Think about having a designated safe person or a support person you could speak to about your diagnosis. Think about assigning either a present loved one or a peer with breast cancer. If you choose a loved one, consider someone who you really trust and feel comfortable with. Consider someone who's an empathetic listener and won't add to your anxiety. If you choose a peer, there are various programs and groups that can connect you with other breast cancer survivors. This could be a great resource if you find yourself questioning if a loved one without cancer could begin to process what you're going through. I myself facilitate a breast support group, and my patients really benefit from having the support of a peer who can fully understand the magnitude of what they're going through. If you find yourself overwhelmed, you might want to give this person a heads up that you could be reaching out to them on this particular day. Choose someone who you can be open and honest with. You want to be able to express all of your emotions freely with this particular person. By the way, Adelphi University also has a breast group that is wonderful that I also refer my patients to if they can't get to mine. Third coping tip, prioritizing your own needs and effective communication. Maybe this year we take the pressure off of ourselves. Don't you think you deserve it after going through what you have? Maybe you're someone who really outdoes themselves during the holiday. Your house is very decorated with tons of lights. Your cooking is spectacular, and you have a special meal you always make. Maybe this year you consider catering or having a loved one help you make the meal, or even provide them with your recipes so they can help out by making the meal themselves. Maybe having another person host the holiday completely. Consider even telling your family you're going to play the holidays by ear. This way, you can give yourself the flexibility of being able to step away when needed. You can see how you feel the morning of the holiday. Maybe this year you let your adult child host. Try not to feel guilty for putting your needs before others. Sometimes this is necessary, and I think this situation counts as one of those times. When I say effective communication, I mean literally that. It's okay to give yourself permission to tell others what you need in this moment. Do not feel guilty for telling your friends and family that you need to go upstairs and rest. Don't feel guilty for feeling like you need a break from festivities. This is completely understandable, and your loved ones should be accepting of this. This is difficult for a lot of patients that are people pleasers. I'm sure everyone knows those. You don't want to feel like these people never want to feel like they're letting anyone down. However, when going through a cancer treatment, a majority of family and friends are going to understand that you have different needs and priorities, and they're not going to be offended if you tell your cousin with a cough that you think it's a good idea that they stay home, or you don't want to be around them. Think about what you can handle this year and don't put pressure on yourself. Ask people for help. If you are used to hosting the entire holiday and still want to host in some way, consider having people for dessert instead of the entire meal, or maybe appetizers. But most importantly, if you can, have fun because you deserve it. Fourth coping tip. Okay. So, for my fourth coping tip, this is a deep breathing and meditation. Consider this: you are sitting at the dinner table or around a Christmas tree or lighting a menorah, and you begin to have racing thoughts about your cancer diagnosis. Why hasn't the oncology team reached out to me yet? Should I be staring at my phone and checking my medical app? I'm okay now, but what if this cancer progresses? I bet a lot of you have had thoughts like this. Think about having a place in your home that you could step away to and consider doing some centering exercises like deep breathing or guided meditations. For example, today we're going to practice a breathing exercise to try in a moment of stress. This can be done anywhere, sitting or standing. If you're sitting, which you probably are today, place your arms on the chair arms. If not, let your arms fall gently to your side. Let your breath flow as deep down into your belly as comfortable without forcing it. Try breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Breathe in gently and regularly. Some people find it helpful to count steadily from 1 to 5. You may not be able to reach 5 at first, and then let it flow out gently, counting from 1 to 5 again. Keep doing this until you feel the tension leaving your body. I'm actually providing everyone with a list of exercises and mindful meditations to try at home. This list is going to be sent out by Angela. Many of the breathing exercises I'm providing have benefits that have been extensively researched. The science behind why breathing exercises work revolves around the vagus nerve, which is part of your brain that is activated when you breathe deeply. The vagus nerve oversees your mood, digestion, and heart rate. Tailored breathing exercises like these stimulate your vagus nerve, helping us better respond to stress and anxiety. So, when you practice any of the breathing exercises I'm going to send over to you, you will benefit with a more relaxed body, a lowered heart rate, distraction from anxiety, lowered blood pressure, and stress reduction, and slower breathing for better energy conservation. Next coping tip. Fifth coping tip, staying present in the moment. What if today we tried to stay in the moment? We considered shutting off our phones and concentrating on spending time with our loved ones. Today, we don't look up cancer treatments or check the medical apps for updated test results and scans. Today, we focus on this present moment and the holiday season. Maybe consider speaking to your loved ones about this prior to the day so they don't feel like bringing up the subject of cancer when you don't feel like discussing it. Of course, that's if you don't feel like discussing it. Today is a day you can enjoy your family, your children, your grandchildren. They're opening presents, special gifts from you, and you want to be present and remember how wonderful these moments are. Time is precious, and none of us, including myself, know what tomorrow will bring. Think about how you're all together and let this soak in. Now, I would like to open up the forum for any questions that you may have for me as an oncology social worker. And it was such an honor to be asked by the Adelphi Breast Program to speak here today. Every day, I grow more impressed with my patients and their strength, both emotionally and physically, throughout this journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking us through those strategies and those coping tips. So often people put pressure on themselves. I'm just reflecting back to the first tip, actually, the words game plan and boundaries really jumped out at me because going through a breast cancer diagnosis or any diagnosis, there's so much to contend with. People find themselves in such a whirlwind, but yet there's also those expectations of loved ones and people in our lives that, with the best of intentions, they want to keep a sense of normalcy. But what does that really mean when you're going through a breast cancer diagnosis? And being empowered to use the word no, to set boundaries, and to have a game plan is really something that can be so helpful and gives people permission to maybe start a new tradition, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. That's one of the major things that I hear from patients as well, worrying about what's going to happen. I mean, it was such a great subject with coping with the holidays because it really, so many patients have said, I don't know what I'm going to tell my family or, how I'm going to have all these people over. And, these are all definitely things to think about before the holiday. I think, we should definitely come up with a game plan. It's important. This way, everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely. You know, I also loved how you talked about having a safe person and designating a person, or maybe two people, even for some people, that might be helpful to really say, okay, this is what I need from you. And to not be afraid to ask and say, this is what I need. This is what would be most helpful. You know, oftentimes when we work with people who are going through breast cancer, they'll say, but this is how it was always done. This is the way it's been for years. Different doesn't necessarily mean bad. It's just different. And you may
Yes.
find yourselves finding new traditions.
Absolutely. And actually, I did have a few patients, like I had mentioned, with having their children host the holidays. Um, I think that a lot of people get, I can't, what am I trying to say? They'll get like, very concerned about what will these people think? And, they're concerned about other people's perception of, the situation. But I really feel like with something like cancer, if you're asking your kids to host, I don't think anyone's going to be judging you for that. I think that it's a lot, but I mean, I'll also point out that there are some people that want to host and that they take like great pleasure in hosting because it takes their mind off of it, which is another thing to be said. Distraction is great. I always say that. If you're someone who likes distraction, that might be your answer, So there's, like I said, there's no wrong answer to this.
I think that's such an important piece, Cara. You know, your answer is the right answer. That's something we often find ourselves saying on the social work team. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever feels comfortable for you. And for the individual to give themselves permission to kind of choose their own adventure and do what's right at that time. And it doesn't mean if
Yes.
what you do for Thanksgiving, for example, that doesn't mean it has to be the same for the next holiday or the next celebration. It's whatever works for you at that particular time.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as the support people go, I actually had two new members join my group last week, and I really stress how wonderful a peer group can be. Like a peer group through you guys, through us, through cancer care, any sort of organization. Honestly, a group setting is so helpful for people because as much as we can do as, mental health professionals, we don't get it on the same level as someone who actually has breast cancer. So I always tell people it's not a bad thing to join a group. You might find that you'll meet lifelong friends. Like honestly, it's so beneficial, I feel like.
We couldn't agree with you more, Cara, here at the program. And it's so wonderful because of our long term relationships between your institution and our organization. You know, there really is something for everyone. And our program has comprehensive support groups that are really tailored to different stages of one's diagnosis, be it newly diagnosed, if you're dealing with advanced disease, young women, as are your groups as well through the hospital and the cancer center. And I think for people to know and to hear that whether you're working with your hospital social worker or the social worker at the cancer center where you're being treated, that person is such a critical member of your treatment team. Use her or use him as a vital resource because you're a wealth of information and you're someone that they see so often going to the treatment center. And then join that with the outside agencies, such as a program like ours at Adelphi, where we have the community social workers. And, you know, it's a beautiful complement to the continuum of care that together we can all provide for patients and their families that are going through breast cancer. So I so
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Well, thank you. And we actually have some chats here that I'm going to read. Raina had mentioned she really liked the idea of being present in the moment when you're dealing with a holiday or a celebration and loved ones. Have patients played board games in the past in order to pass the time? Is that something that you've heard that's a great suggestion for people when they get together, or
That
other
is a great
suggestions?
suggestion.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not, I don't think any of my patients have mentioned board games. But that's actually a really good idea. I mean, that's another that would fall under the category of distraction, definitely, which is one of my personal favorite coping mechanisms. I feel like distraction can be very helpful. So board games, absolutely. Any sort of yeah, any sort of board game, anything like that would actually be a wonderful idea. And I will definitely bring that back to my group too, because that's a great idea.
Yeah, I love that. It's something that everybody can participate in.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, we do have a question. I see Sandra with a hand up. I'm going to ask the audience to please put your questions into the chat so I can moderate and share them with Cara directly. I do have a question that's come up in some of our groups here at the program, Cara. What if someone does what you said? They said, we have a holiday coming up. I'm trying to come up with a game plan. I presented my new game plan to the family. It didn't go over well. What should I do if somebody experiences some pushback, and not because of the family not wanting to accept the proposal, shall we say, for the new way of celebrating, but they don't feel entirely supported? What would you suggest to someone who's trying to find their way in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, that can be rough. I would talk to I maybe would even speak to a peer who might understand that situation, that has gone through something similar themselves. Um, you usually, I mean, in every family, there's always going to be like somebody. I always say that. So you may have that person, and you're going to want to go to a more supportive person, not that person. But I've definitely, heard stories similar to that before. And unfortunately, I kind of think that this circles back to boundaries, with like having boundaries with ourselves. And is this really somebody who you even want to be celebrating with? I hate to say it, but really think about, you know, is this person, what's this person bringing to my life, honestly, especially. And I feel like cancer puts things really into perspective. So that would definitely be a reason, to kind of wonder, if this person isn't being supportive, what are they really doing for me right now? I really need supportive people right now in my life.
Well said. You make such a great point, and I think it provides an opportunity in the middle of a difficult situation to really reevaluate, or sometimes for the first time, evaluate the circumstance and the person in question, because no one needs additional stress. This is hard
Agreed.
enough,
Yes.
right? It's hard enough. So I think that's valid, and to really be able to turn to a peer and peer support. And those are certainly things that social workers can help with, whether they're speaking with you when patients come for treatment and come for appointments, or reach out to the hotline to talk to somebody peer to peer, really say, can I speak with somebody who really has been there and understands what I'm going
Absolutely.
through?
And I actually love the hotline, and I give the hotline out to so many people as well. I have to mention that. It's
Mhm.
just such a wonderful resource, because we've had so many patients say, I mean, I'm here during work hours, so I'm not here after hours. And it's so nice to have that, support available, that they can, call either this hotline or the cancer care hotline, where there's an oncology social worker available. So those are great resources too.
No, thank you. Let's see. If people have a question, if you're able to go into the chat, I don't want to leave anyone out.
Okay, can I say something real quick? Good morning. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, Angela.
Mm.
My right hand is in the sling right now, and it's real difficult for me to type.
Oh,
So
Oh
sure.
can
no, I'm
I give,
sorry.
that's
Sure,
okay.
Sandra. Go ahead.
Yes. My question to you is, I missed the first two, but I heard you said that because I was having difficulty getting on. Um, that you're going to put make sure that Angela and the others have it. Yes, I thank them for allowing me to be a part of this group session. My question is for the holidays, and I am very close to my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, and she's, you know, like been my sister that I don't have. And I want to know how to go about this. I just want to have um I want us all to be together at Thanksgiving because I know I'm traveling for Christmas time, but I want to say it, but or how do I go about it without making them think that I'm thinking these are my last days? I'm not thinking that, but that's what brings me joy. Recently in July, we all went to LA for my brother's wedding, my younger brother's wedding. And it was such a beautiful experience for me. And I didn't shed a tear one day because everybody was, you know, they were all the young people were all crowding around me and stuff. And, you know, Auntie Sandra, come on, this is your song. Let us move. So I want this Thanksgiving to be somewhat like that, but not for them to think that because they're always worried about me and what I'm, you know, I was like, oh, is she thinking these are her last days? No, I'm not. But I just want to have those memories. And as I know, you know, I'm sure, you know, we don't know what tomorrow holds for us. So every day is like a celebration for me and the gratitude. I just want to be able to get that over to her without making her feeling like, oh boy, we got to do this because Sandra is not, you know. Give me some
No.
tips, please.
I mean, okay, so from what you're saying, it sounds like you have an amazing supportive family, which is
Yes, I
that's
do.
great, honestly. That's I mean, everybody wants that. So you have that. I feel like from what my patients have told me, I kind of would approach this honestly. I mean, I would tell my family I don't think that this is my last holiday. I don't want anyone to think that. I might get a little bit emotional, but that's just because I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, that's kind of how I would approach it. I would preface it. I mean, it sounds like these are people that you can really be honest with in your family.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tell them that. I would say, you know, I had such a great time at that wedding, and you know, I hope that it wasn't because people thought that this was going to be the last time I'm here because I'm sticking around for a while, you know? Um,
Yes.
I don't think that I think that that's a good strategy.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks, Sandra.
You're welcome.
You know, I think you brought up another great point, both Sandra and Kara, just having the courage to one, you know, come to a forum like this and then to bring up the concerns within one's own family and situation. But I think also being able to say, I deserve this opportunity with every celebration, milestone, event that comes up to communicate openly and honestly to those in your lives because you do deserve that. And it's so important and really empowering to be able to just put out there what you're feeling and just to say it, you know,
100%. Yes.
very,
I
very important. Another question, Kara, do you have any suggestions for people who don't want to say anything to their families? And that's such a great point that Raina brings up because that does come up. Sometimes people choose not to communicate so much with their loved ones and people in their inner circles. What would you say to somebody in that case?
um I think that it's really a personal decision, honestly. You don't I don't think that you have to divulge more information than you want to. You know what I mean? People might I don't, you know, it depends on like if you're going through physical changes, like if you're going through chemo and you know you're going to have like hair loss. You know, that might be something that you kind of have to bring up only because it's going to be like the elephant in the room, like, you know. Um but if not, you know, if you're going through treatment that's like radiation and there's no signs or anything of it, I think you could be you could keep it to yourself. That's your own personal decision. But I do strongly suggest still having a support person that you can speak to. So even if it's not your family, even if you don't want them knowing, a friend, or like I said, a peer or somebody definitely on the sidelines that you could call if you had to.
That's a great idea. Great suggestion. I've had in the past people who have thought about what it would be like to have a first holiday after going through treatment and being in the throes of different stages of their diagnosis. Sometimes people will choose to send out an email to the people who are planning to attend the gathering, or perhaps somebody else in their circle send out a text saying, listen, this is what's going on, and almost give parameters of what would make the person going through the diagnosis most comfortable. I think no matter how people choose to proceed, right? Really, at the heart of it, all of these ideas and suggestions is using yourself as a guide, kind of knowing that your answer is the right answer, whatever you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. And that's actually a very good idea. Having someone else, like a designated family member, if you don't feel comfortable telling people, but you want people to know a little bit of what's going on, it's actually a good idea to have someone else, send out a text. So yes, for sure.
The one thing that's come up as well, especially in light of going through the global pandemic, is the issue of mask wearing at gatherings and things like that. Something that's come up in the past for people I've worked with, and even in the interest of, self-disclosure, is wearing shoes when you go to someone's home. When you have a gathering and people are going through different circumstances and medical conditions, the issue of wearing shoes inside someone's home. And you might not think about that, but it's something that, it's a different lens through which we see our realities once your life is touched in this way. And I've had other people address that problem head on, sending an email, and actually going so far, I had one person's in the invitation to the gathering, put a little note with a heart and say, we ask that when you enter the home that you please remove your shoes. And I had somebody else actually provide like surgical booties that you would find in the hospital to all the guests placed by the front door. And people were just asked to put them on over their shoes if you wanted to keep your beautiful shoes on, but come into the home kind of decreasing the amount of germs that go through the home. And it made it more comfortable and safer for those at the gathering. So there's really different approaches to it. And it's really about what works for you.
Definitely. I mean, we could say the same thing with masks. It's so true. And I mean, look, in a situation like this, I know that there are a lot of people that are so tired of the mask wearing, and I understand. But in a situation where someone has cancer, and like if them getting sick is really, it's like life or death. It's no longer, they can't get sick, God forbid someone has like a nasty cough. I would say either stay home or mask up. I mean, but this all falls under boundaries. It's true. Like with the shoes, letting people know, especially if it's your own house. I mean, these are boundaries that you just have to set, I think.
Absolutely. Now, Nina brings up a great point in the chat. She had a patient ask how she could take a nap if she needed to rest and not draw attention to herself during the holiday dinner. That comes up a lot. Can you speak to that?
Oh, that's a great question. And I actually have not thought about that. When I do think about it, I mean, you could, yeah, it would be difficult not to draw any attention, I would think, depending on how many people are at your gathering. Um, but I mean, I think if you're the type of person that has told everyone what's going on, I mean, they're going to assume that you're resting. If you're the person who is more private about it, you could just say that, you're not feeling well, you have to step away. You know, you don't have to say anything about your diagnosis, just I'm feeling run down from the holidays, you know, just to step away, maybe go upstairs and rest. That would be my suggestion.
That's a great idea. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Nita. I think that's something that a lot of people deal with. Um, we've heard from patients over the years that have actually planned the meal around when the best time of day would be for her. So I've had someone who said, you know, the mornings are better and I feel my strongest during that time. So there was actually a holiday brunch that year. And right. So just a different way of tweaking the celebration. And it was a smaller venue. The menu changed and it was around when she felt most comfortable and ready to see guests and to receive guests.
That's
So,
great. And that's a new tradition. So that's nice. It's just like starting something, you know, new that year. And I mean, even if you don't continue it, that's a very, very good idea.
little things and finding this new way to be together. And also, I think the importance of stressing to others if there's that need to say, you know, just because we do it this way one time, it's not forever, it's for now. And
Yes.
recognizing that, you know, sometimes not having a large gathering or choosing to have a quiet time at that celebration. That might be the new normal just for now, for this time. Again, kind of honoring where you are as a patient and what your needs are, because that's really at the top of the priority list.
Definitely.
Yeah. These are really wonderful, concrete ways that people could feel empowered and really take control in a situation that can feel really overwhelming, particularly at this time of year as we go into a season of so many different celebrations and events coming up. Does anybody have any other questions? I want to give people an opportunity to share. Well, we have Cara's expertise available to us. I do have a question that came up recently within the clinics in oncology. For people that want to travel, and, you know, Sandra had alluded to this, she had shared about recently taking a trip and traveling in the upcoming month. What would you recommend or suggest to a patient when there are regularly scheduled treatments, but perhaps there's an opportunity to take a trip and tweak that schedule a bit?
Oh, absolutely. That comes up a lot, actually. So anything medical, I always refer back to the oncologist. So if like they're going through chemo or radiation, I'll always ask the oncologist, you know, can you reach out to this patient? Like they want to go to Florida. That's like a big one. And honestly, sometimes it's possible for them to get treatments in the area that they're traveling to, which is one thing that could be done. I know that I think that there's an NYU in Delray. So like if we have patients from here and they're in Florida, I'm pretty sure, you know, it's possible for them to have treatment if they have to, like that would be a possibility, or they will sometimes tweak the schedule, you know, if it's possible. Because they don't want you to stop your life. That's like one of the main things, you know, going through any sort of cancer treatment. They don't want you to, you know, put a pause on your life. Like they want you to keep living your life. It's very important to have like normalcy and to be able to bring your grandchildren to Disney or bring your kids to Disney, you know, go somewhere during the season. You know, that's definitely that I would always refer back to the oncologist, just to be sure. But, you know, most of the time they don't have a problem with people traveling. Yeah.
That's great to hear and for people to know, for patients to know about an affiliate location. I think that's really such a
I'm
wonderful
not
option.
positive on the exact location in Florida, but I know that there is an NYU in Florida. I don't want to steer anyone wrong, but what I'm trying to say is when you're working with a big hospital system, you know, sometimes it's possible to find a branch where you're going. if you're traveling and you do need treatment, but most of the time they're able to move the treatments, to tweak the treatment plan. Yeah.
And I think that's what's really key to hear. It's that there are options, that piece.
Yes.
Sometimes patients are really hesitant to bring it up with their treatment team and their oncologist because they feel like, no, this is it. I can't change anything. But you don't know if you don't ask. So definitely take the opportunity to have the conversation, because I think oftentimes patients are pleasantly surprised at what is possible with respect to changing the schedule and making it work so that patients can have an opportunity to celebrate in the way that they choose.
Yes, for sure.
I think that's terrific. Oh. I'm just wondering if it would be possible to take us through one of the breathing exercises, because being able to stay present, right? I think that might be a nice
I
opportunity.
Brought them with me.
Yeah, terrific.
So I composed this list of breathing exercises that I found. So I don't want anyone to think that I've made them up, because I didn't, but I absolutely could lead one. So let me see. This would be a great one for now. So I actually really like, it's called box breathing. Okay. It's a 4-4-4. All right. So this is one that I've actually used myself, just for anxiety. So this could be good for anybody, honestly. So the 4-4-4 breathing is commonly known as box breathing. And it's one of the easier breathing techniques that you can practice to help calm anxiety. Okay. So this is a perfect quick fix for reducing stress by distracting your mind and body. If you taking a minute to breathe deeply, then you've likely come close to box breathing. Okay. So the way that we would do this is you take a breath, you're going to exhale on the count of 4. So you take a breath in, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to hold your breath for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. So we're going to do, when you do a few rounds of this box breathing, it should help to keep a raised heart rate down and distract you from anxiety-inducing situations around you. And sitting down with an open, extended spine and an open chest is the best way to practice this technique, but it can be done standing up. So again, box breathing is one of my favorites personally, and that would definitely be an easy one that you could do, if you had to even walk into your kitchen to get away from the dining room, you could do that in your living room, anywhere basically. So yeah.
That's fantastic, Cara. Thank you. Because that's really such a tangible tool that we can all use, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, to just take a moment and to participate in that exercise. It can be really amazing how it changes breathing, our heart rate, our stress level. It's really incredible.
Absolutely. It definitely grounds you. The breathing exercises, it brings you back, when you feel like you're out of control with, having racing thoughts about diagnosis and what's happening. And so the breathing definitely helps you come back to earth, basically.
I like that. And that actually brings me to another point that somebody had raised. Knowing when you've hit your limit. Everybody has limits, and it's really important, going back to some of the other coping strategies that you talked about, the game plan, the boundaries, the safe person, prioritizing your needs, knowing when it's time to say good night and giving yourself permission to do that whenever that point may be reached. And maybe for people to think about that before the event. And again, kind of having
that definitely, that's a game plan. Definitely. And that's absolutely a boundary issue too. you know, like I was saying before, these are times where we really have to be clear on boundaries. You know, if you feel like you are going to need to leave at a certain time, I kind of would develop a strategy maybe with, your spouse or, whoever you're attending the holiday with, or if you're throwing the holiday, kind of, even if you yourself are just able to walk away, when it's time, and have someone else, clean up, all that kind of stuff. Because I agree with you. You definitely, I think personally that you need a game plan for that, to be able to leave when the time is right, because you don't want to disappoint your family, but at the same time, if if you're up and awake for hours more than you should be, you might not feel well the next day. It's not worth it. So again, that all comes back to boundaries and developing a game plan. Yes.
Yeah, it's all related. It's all part of the circle, right? And I think that that's so critical, to be able to honor where you're at, that
Yes.
piece. You know, somebody in the chat had asked, she missed the beginning of the program. Is it okay if she shares some of the resources that we provide in our follow-up email with others? And certainly,
Oh,
right?
yes. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Thank you.
All of it.
And Cara has graciously agreed for us to video this program. So with her permission, we'll be able to share that video as well, because this is such valuable information. And we really thank you so much, Cara, for that opportunity so that we could share this with others as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be asked to speak here. I love working with my oncology patients. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. I feel like I'll be doing this for the rest of my life. I love it. Truly.
Well, we are privileged to have you, and knowing the patients that have the opportunity to meet with you and their families that have an opportunity to meet with you, we all know how lucky we all are to have you in this very special role. So thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be with us today, for sharing these amazing tips, and for everything that you do in your role as an oncology social worker at the Cancer Center. And we're very fortunate to have you as a partner. So the pleasure is all ours. And I know the audience joins me in expressing the gratitude for what you've done for us here today. So thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and with that, I'm going to conclude our program for the afternoon. As always, for all of our guests, if you have any questions, concerns, if you or someone you love is going through a diagnosis, please don't hesitate to reach out to our program. We're here. We can always refer you to Cara if you'd like to connect with her directly following this program. Be on the lookout in the very near future for an email from our program at the Adelphi Breast Cancer Program. It will have an evaluation form as well as the resources that Cara has put together for us. Thank you, Cara. So we do ask if you could take just a minute or two to fill out that evaluation, because it does help to shape future programs, which are very generously sponsored by some of our community partners and grantee organizations. So I thank you in advance for your help. But thank you all for being here today, and we wish you a peaceful holiday season and nothing but good health and happiness to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be well, everyone.